Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Empowered to Live. I am your host, Andrea Rose Butler, with Becoming Women's Network, and this is the podcast where faith meets purpose and purpose fuels freedom. We are almost all the way through our vacation, sadness, um, but it has been fun, and we'll be heading back um, to Mexico in the next few days, um, back to life and back to reality. Although the fun is over, but it's okay. We've had a really good time. And, thank you for all those who have been praying for us while we have been traveling. We much appreciate you all. And today we are wrapping up our series on the power of vision. And over the past few weeks, we've talked about seeing beyond circumstances, casting a God centered vision, and holding on to a vision through difficult seasons. And that was a difficult one to do because, again, when you're in the middle of your difficult season, sometimes I know it's hard for us to look beyond that. But when we cast our vision and we know where we're going and we know that this is only temporary, we can walk through those difficult seasons. And so today we are bringing it up to a close, and we're talking about walking in power and purpose. And so vision is not meant to stay on paper. We also write the vision, make it plain, but we don't take action. And last month we had a series about faith in action. And so we have to put feet and legs to our vision and not just allow it to stay there on papers, waiting for the good times to come, waiting for the perfect weather, perfect season, when your money is right, when you finish with this, when the kids are grown, when this happens and that happens. And, we have all the excuses in the world as to why, maybe even, bad health, this is, I'm going through this, I'm going through that. But start the process, put legs to the vision. And so we're talking about the power, walking in the power of and in purpose. So purpose requires power, because again, when we have difficult seasons and we want to give up, we need the power to help us to maintain and to keep going. So again, it's not meant to stay on paper. It's about to get our legs and walk. And so it's important to shape how we live. And so our scripture for today is from Ephesians 3:20, said, "Now unto him who is able to do immeasurable or do exceedingly and abundantly above all that we're able to ask, imagine, or think, according to his power that is at work within us." So it's not about our power, but it's about his power, God's power. He's the one that gives us the power. And so the power of vision comes from God, who empowers us. And it's just appropriate because, this is the Empowered to Live, and the impetus behind the Empowered to Live podcast is from Second Peter um, chapter 1 verse 3, and it says that his divine power has given us everything that we need to live out this life and also to live godly. So it was God's divine power, and so we are empowered to live. And so that is the foundation of the Empowered to Live podcast. So if you didn't know the history behind that, if you hadn't been following me for a while, that is where the whole title comes from. Is that God's divine power who has empowered us to live this life. He's the one who gives, he's the empowerer. So when we can't do it, he can. When we're walking through difficult seasons and we want to give up, it is his power that empowers us to live, to keep going forward, he's the gasoline to our engine that keeps us moving. And so it is God's power, his divine power that lives inside of us. So walking in power requires courage. We talked about last week that one of the hindrances for us having vision and keep walking in vision is discouragement. And so because vision requires courage, we become discouraged and we want to give up because things are not working out the way we think they should. They're not moving fast enough. Whatever, we say, or whatever is happening, it keeps us from doing that and from moving forward. So purpose isn't just discovered, it's practice. So we've got to put our faith in action. See how that all comes together? So we've got to put legs to it. We've got to work it. We've got to work it out. We got to put action. We have to, fall down and get back up. We have to try it and it not work. Because sometimes, we have an idea of how we think something should go, but God also has an idea of how He knows it should go. And so if we're not connected to Him, if we're not asking Him to show us, to give us the vision of how He wants it to go, then of course we're going to fail. I told you before, I was planning all of this stuff. I was writing stuff down. It had different titles and had all of this, and parts of it are coming together kind of the same way, but just not in the way I had originally envisioned how it was going to be. And because of that, I procrastinated. And I was trying to get it right and do all these different things. And God was like, it's not about you. I wanted to empower you. And so Pastor preached that message back in 2023, the beginning of the year, 2023. And then I started writing a blog called Empowered to Live. And that was, again, we started there. We started doing the blog. And then in 24, I was just like, I'm tired of you writing and trying to hide. And people need to hear your voice because you've got a message. And the podcast came out of, me starting with the blog, trying to hide still, because that was my vision. And that was not God's vision for me and where He wanted me to be and what His expectations were for me. And it was His power, His divine power, that was making it possible. And so each decision becomes an opportunity to align with the vision God has placed within you. So, when you're like, oh, that didn't work out, but you learn. There's a lessons. There are teachable moments during that time that you figure things out because God was showing you and He was giving you wisdom. So it's not failure. You learn. You gain some wisdom, and you gain some insight into what was and what wasn't going to work and how things were going to be. And so as we learn and God aligns us, He keeps shaping us into that image as He's working it out, because He's the one. It is His divine power that is shaping us, that's putting it together. He's the one that gave it the vision and He works it together and He does all what He needs to do and He connects it with people. Like I said, I had a vision that I wanted to interview people and different things like that. And then, but I wasn't in that space for that. And then God gave me the vision for Visionary Voices. And, we had our first Visionary Voice this past January, and our next one is going to be at the end of April. So stay tuned for that. And we were evolving, we were growing, and I was learning as I was going, and getting the platforms together and connecting with people and all the different things that God had to put it together. But it wasn't. I was aligning with how He wanted to do it and His timing, and not in mine. And so as we practice, as we make decisions, as we do things, and as we listen, God guides our steps and we move in that area. So power doesn't come from striving alone. We can hustle. We love that hustle culture, but it comes from partnership with God. We don't have to strive, because when you're hustling, that's where burnout comes, because you're trying to do it in your own strength. You're trying to figure stuff out as you go, and and it's how you get sucked into scams and all those different things, because you're trying to do things outside of God when He is the one that empowers you. He is the one that guides you. He's the one that does it. We're in partnership. We're walking together with Him, and He is leading and guiding us. He's the one that knows. Again, we talked about your story. He wrote your story, and He knows. And as an author, I can I can jive with that, because as I'm developing my characters and I'm telling them what they're saying, because that's what authors do. We put the words in the character's mouth. We decide who's the protagonist and who's the antagonist, and we all the different things, where they live, what they dress, how they look, how they, and so God is the author of who we are. And so he is the one that directs our steps. He orders those. And so when we have to partner with him so that we're hearing his voice, so that we're leading, he's leading us. When he talks about, that he, uh, that when we're yoked together with him, and when they're like cattle, and then when they're training a young oxen, they'll connect a more mature, seasoned oxen with the young one, and he guides him. So when that younger one wants to push and go a different way, he was like, no, 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 this is how we yoke, we do a straight line. And this is what God does. He connects, he partners with us. And he was like, when we want to go our own way, he was like, no, no, no. This is the way. This is the way. Walk this way. Go this way. Turn here. Say this. This is the person I want you to connect with. Go across here. Write that book. Go back to school. Whatever it is, God, that purpose that God has inside of you, he's the one that gave it to you. He's the one that is able to do it. And when we feel that we can't, and so that it is his immeasurable power that can do exceedingly abundantly above all that we can even ask, think, or imagine. So what can you imagine about what God has for you? What is the vision that you have that God has placed inside of you? And if it's easy and you can just do it, then it's not big enough, and it's not scary enough, and he's not pushing you enough. And it's, we want to play it safe, and God has bigger things for us, and but we want to be safe. And so that's some of the things that hinder us. We are afraid of stepping forward. And I've shared a story about this podcast. I was a behind the scenes girl. I put me in. You need me to cook you something in the kitchen? You need me to clean? What? That's what I used to live. God was like, nope. I need you to get from out of these back rooms, out of, like, I'll serve plates, I'll set tables up, I'll clean, I'll do this. And God was like, no, no, that's not my plan for you. That's your plan for you, but it's not my plan for you. And so it's a scary place. And to come, week after week and get in front of this camera and pretty much talk to myself because I don't know who's listening. I don't know, if it's what impact it was making, especially in the beginning, just not knowing. And it was a scary place. And I think that's probably the reasons why I was so hesitant about doing it. And I'm coming with all the excuses and planning myself into non-existence of doing this. And I was like, nope. I was afraid of stepping forward. But here I am now. In June, will be 2 years, and I'll be celebrating that 2 years. Um, and so we will, 2 years already, almost 2 years already. And God has been faithful in that. And so when we allow him to empower us, that fear goes away. Not fully, because there's some days, I get here and things don't go the way I think they should go. And the system does whatever the system does. I've lost sound, I've lost video. Things have happened. And my old self that says, go back to the back, you know, this is not for you, pops up, and it gets there. And so I can allow fear to keep me from doing that. And so I keep pressing forward because I recognize that is not my power, but his power. I'm waiting again for perfect conditions. They're never going to happen. It's never going to happen. Perfect conditions are never going to come. So just do it. Again, there's a scripture that says, if a farmer waits for the perfect conditions, he'll never sow. And the same thing, if you are waiting for things to line up just right, and it's never going to happen, so just start. Just do what. Just take the step and do it. Doubting your calling, doubting that God called you, that God, He created you for a purpose, on purpose. You're not here by accident. You are not here just to take up space. Somebody may have told you you're a waste of space. You are not. God did not waste you. You are created in his image and likeness, and he has purpose behind why you are here, because you alone are uniquely gifted to do what you do. You can talk like anybody else. That is you, and you alone. So if somebody made you feel that you were not enough, that you're not worthy, uh, they're lying, because God doesn't make mistakes. God created you, and He created you for a purpose. And so whatever it is that you are felt that is in your heart to do, that is good. That is God calling you. And He is the one that's going to empower you to do what He has uniquely called you to do. So stop doubting, feeling overwhelmed by the journey. And it can get overwhelming. I know. Again, there are many days I'm like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I don't want to go live today. I don't feel like it. I want to, do something else. I want to read a book. I don't want to go live. I can't think of what to say. I don't know what to say. And it can get overwhelming. I get in my own head, and you know, so it can feel overwhelming, when you don't know what to do, when you feel the pressure of trying to be perfect and get it all together and trying to do all the things. Especially again, if you've got a young family and then you're working and you're doing this. Because when I first started, I was still working. I was working. I had church obligations. I was trying to, build stuff. I was writing. I think I was going through the ordination process to become ordained. All of these things were going on all at once. Just a whole lot of things was happening all at one time, and I think we were in the process of the move, so we were trying to um, figure stuff out. So we were working on all of these things. Everything was happening all at once. And so, I think my mom had surgery and she wasn't doing well. So so life was just lifing. And so there was a whole lot of stuff. And so I know that you may be in that space too, where you're just, feeling that overwhelming sense of everything, of the pressure. And to get everything together, and you may feel that. Breathe. That's the thing I want to say for you. Breathe. And again, you don't have to do it in your own strength, and God will give you wisdom, because I've shared in past episodes that sometimes we have things on our plate that people put there, or we may have taken on because we want to please people and we didn't know how to set our boundaries. And so we got stuff on that plate that doesn't belong there, that God did not give you, and He did not say this was something for you to carry. Somebody gave it to you to carry. I remember when my kids were younger, we were going to this one church, and they was like, "Oh, you're single, you can do this." I said, "Yeah, but I'm single with attachments." So I'm not the single. Yes, I'm not married. And so they felt like, "Okay, well, you're not married, so therefore you can take on." And I was like, "But I got two little people that can't take care of themselves. So I am not alone just because I'm not married." And I think sometimes we get that too. You may be a single parent like I was, and I guess technically I still am. But you are not without attachments. And then, now I've got elder care. And then I got my own health issues. And sometimes still people want to say, "Oh, well, your kids are grown. So you can take on, this. So you can take on that, and you can add more stuff to your plate just because. Oh, you're retired now. So therefore you can." And people will pile stuff on, and you may say, "Well, and then you feel bad because of it. Don't feel bad. You figure out what God wants you to carry, the yoke that He gave you, which He said was easy, and His burdens were light. And so not other people's expectations, not other people's burdens, not other people's journey, where they want to abdicate and give it to you. No, you take on what God gave you to carry, and not what somebody else wanted you to carry. And that's important for us to know the difference, and that's important for you to know the difference, that not necessarily what you're carrying belongs to you. And so that can keep you to feel overwhelmed, because then you're burdened down with other people's stuff. that's not yours to carry. So what can you do? So focus on obedience rather than perfection. Um, Coming from a card carrying perfectionist, and that's been my struggle area. Yes, I focus on obedience. Just get started. Just do it. I'm like, but it's not right. It's got to be. My kids were just like, oh my gosh, why are you like this? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's a whole childhood trauma. I don't know. And so that's it's still a battle, and I've learned. I recognize the symptoms when they show up, and I can diagnose when I'm getting to that place. And I thank God I have my adult children who remind me that it's not about perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect. Stop. It looks great. Don't do that. And maybe you need somebody like that speaking into your life, saying it's good. It is great. Don't worry about it. When God made you, He didn't say, "Look, she is perfect. He is perfect." He said, "It is good. You are good." He said, "We're very good, not perfect, very good." And so, if God made us and said very good and not perfect, why do we strive for perfection? That's something I have to ask myself all the time. Why do I strive for perfection when God made me and said I was very good, and He didn't say I was perfect? And so that will free you, and it's working on freeing me from that burden again, carrying something that's not mine to carry. But letting that go of not holding on to saying it's got to be perfect, it's got to be great, it's got to be this way, and so then we lock down and we never move forward. Take one faithful step at a time. Journey of 1,000 steps. 1,000 miles begins with that first step. So what is that one thing that you can do? As clients say all the time, what is one thing that you can do to move you closer to where you need to go? It's not about I need to get to the destination. Well, one step. The GPS, it shows you the end result. It tells you where you're going to end up. But there are turns, there are roadblocks, there's stuff, and it tells you how many miles till you get where you're going, how long it's going to take. And sometimes, it may tell you it's 8 minutes, and then you're driving, and they say, "Oh, how am I 10 minutes away? I was just 8 minutes, a few minutes ago. What happened?" And that's how life is. Sometimes, it looks like we're on track, and it's all green, and we're rolling, and then it turns orange, then it turns red, and then there's roadblocks, traffic is stopped, we get stuck, but we're still, and then sometimes it would say you're still on the fastest route. And you're like, how? It's red. How am I still on the fastest route when I'm not moving? But it's saying that I'm still on the fastest route. I'm still on the way there, and I'm still on course. And even though it's red right now, that God, it can see ahead, and it knows what's up ahead. And so, yes, there may be slowdown right now, but once it's clear, you're going to make up time. It's going to show you different ways. But it's saying you're still on the fastest route, and you're still on the fastest route to wherever your God is taking you. To trust God to equip you along the way. He's going to give you. I remember I talked about the lessons that we learn in every season. We're learning, what to do, how to do it. When it looks like we fail, God, it's a lesson learned, and we're learning, and we're being equipped for the journey. We're being equipped for the purpose that God has created us for. Nothing is by accident. Nothing is by mistake. Even if you made the choice, it's still a lesson learned, and you know now, and then you can able to help somebody else, because that may be your purpose. You made a choice, but God knew you were going to make that choice, and He made it a part of the plan that He has for you. So don't beat yourself up because of the choices that you made. Whether good or bad, don't beat yourself up, because God is using it. He's working all things together for your good. He's working it together for your good, and it's going to be good. Celebrate progress instead of perfection. Again, as you're going along, you know, celebrate the movement that you're making. Celebrate the steps that you're taking. At each milestone. When you get to a certain point, you'll be like, "Yay, I made it! Thank God. I shared last week, getting out of bed. For some people, that is a victory to get out of bed. To take a shower is a victory for some people. Washing your face is a victory. You may be like, oh, that's just routine. For some people, it is a struggle to do that. They're battling depression or they may have health challenges or whatever. And so whatever you have struggles as well. So what is your struggle that when you complete it, when you move beyond it, that's a moment to celebrate. When you've accomplished something and you're moving forward, celebrate every win that you have, every step. Not that you got it perfect, but that you made a step. You made a decision that pushed you one step closer to where you need to go, to where God is taking you, and celebrate the fact that God has empowered you for this step for today. And so as we wrap up, we are in our challenge. So today, not tomorrow, take one intentional step towards the vision God has placed in your heart. What is one thing that you can do today, this very minute, that's going to push you forward into the vision that God has for you? What's something that you can do? It doesn't have to be big. It just has to be one faithful step. Do it afraid. Take the step, take the leap of faith, and just do it. One of the podcast titles that I had when I started is called "Just Jump." Just jump. Just jump instead of just do it. Just jump. Just step out and do it. And do it afraid and watch God work it out for you. And He can do again above all that you can even think or imagine. And trust God that He's got it. He is bigger than you. He's bigger than whatever you think is the obstacle is in your way. And celebrate that. Um, and so for my writers out there who like to journal, what vision is God invited you to walk in? What is the vision that He's inviting you to walk in? And what step of obedience is in front of me right now? So what's something that's in front of you right now that you're like, okay, I shared about this before, that in military that that the commander will give you a command or preparation, but there's action behind that preparation. You know, it's the getting ready, and God is preparing you. So but there's an action step. So He's like, okay, let's go. And so then you have to move, when you have to go somewhere and you say, okay, let's get ready. You're not just sitting around, in your pajamas, laying in bed when you have to be somewhere, you have an appointment. No, you get up, you get washed up, you change your clothes, you fix your face, you brush your teeth, you eat breakfast, and so you're preparing. So that let's go, there are steps that you have to take. And so, what is the step that you need to take? Is it getting out of bed? You know, making that first initial contact. Is it now that is it now you can grab your keys and let's head out the door? Are you in that step? But you're afraid to open the door. You're afraid to grab the keys. You know, whatever the step is that God is saying, He's saying, let's go. Let's do this. It requires action. So let's go. Let's roll, whatever, however you want to say it's action is required. So what is that one step of obedience that you can do in that let's go portion that God is calling you, saying, let's go? What is your obedience step? And how can you trust God more deeply as you move forward? Moving forward requires trust. It requires trust. It requires trust. And so, do you truly believe, when we talked about faith in action, do you believe God? Do you believe Him enough to take action? That it's still the let's go. So if you need more encouragement, go back and look at that Faith in Action series from last month. It's out on there on YouTube, um, and so our YouTube channel, and I think Facebook maybe are already erasing it. So but we can, so at Becoming Woman's Network YouTube channel, remind yourself again to take action because it requires. We cannot sit on the sidelines and hope and wish and wanting for a better outcome without taking action. That is requirement. All right, so that's wrapping up this series. Next month, we'll have a new series that will be rolling out, as well as our Visionary Voices on the last Thursday of April. Some wonderful guests. We're going to talk about how trauma shapes our identity and our purpose. So looking forward to that. So I had some wonderful guests there, and God is putting it together. He is working it out. So continue to pray for us. Pray for me. I am the us. In the Empowered to Live podcast. That God continues to give me wisdom. That He shows me what you all need to hear, and that I am listening to Him. As I put together these series, but for whatever reason, this is how God has got me right now. That everything is a series. Before I was doing one here, and I had different topics, and then God put it together, and I started doing series, and it builds on each other. And I think that again, listening to God's voice and the way He wanted it, because I had topical things when I first started out, and that was stressful to try and come up with topics every week and just try to figure stuff out. I'm like, oh, what am I supposed to be talking about? And then the series started doing series, I think month 3, and we have been series in ever since, and that seems to work. It helps me to plan better, and where we're going each week as well. So where we're having a series. Also, on the website, we have the blogs where we kind of recapped all of those. We have the newsletter that goes out as well every Tuesday as well. So busy. So like I said, this vacation was well needed because we got a lot of stuff going on. I'm still in novel writing phase. So I shared a few weeks ago that I'm writing my first novel, and it has been an adventure for me because I'm used to writing Bible studies and devotionals, and the Lord just dropped in my spirit earlier this um, last month, actually, beginning of last month when the pain situations first started, and it was just like, Father, what? But here we are. We are writing. I'm almost at 20,000 words, so yay, which is a lot. But we are almost at 20,000 words and trying to get through all of that. And then in the midst of that, I completed the Bachelor of Ministry program and just waiting for my grades still. And we are 54% complete in the master's program. And next month, I am going to be have to put my novel to the side because my thesis is due as well. So I'm gonna have to. I've got most of that written as to the part that we've covered already, and so that is also on deck right now. So like I said, vacation is much needed for us because I'm assuming for me because there's just a lot of things, a lot of moving parts that are there. And again, I just appreciate all of you for every week, tuning in and watching me, listening to me talk. And I just appreciate all of you all so, so very much. You don't know how much I appreciate you and your support to this podcast. And like I said, if there's a topic or a series you want to see me cover, message me. You can message me on Facebook under Become a Woman's Network. You can go to the website, becomeawomansnetwork.org, and send me a message there. You can DM me, or however, if you have my phone number, send me a text message. However you want to see. Give me some ideas of things that you would like to see me cover. If you don't know what I've already covered, You can also go to the YouTube channel because the episodes are there. So you'll be able to see those. And again, if this series has encouraged you, share it with someone who is searching for direction. And remember, vision changes everything when it's anchored in faith. And as a reminder, again, continue to live empowered. You all have a wonderful rest of your evening, and I will see you all next week. Have a great one. Bye.